Tawnya, we're so happy to have you join us. Tell us, where are you right now? This looks like where the magic happens. Right?
Yeah, a little small corner of res here. Yeah, I'm on 6 stations. I'm in Nuevo right now. We're open for service. So if you see some people walking by, it's middle of lunch hour right now. So
oh my gosh,
we're doing it live. We do everything live.
I love it. Roll with it, right? Okay, before we get to Top Chef, I want to just go back. What got you interested in cooking?
I don't know if there was ever like a moment where I was just like, I want to grow up, I want to be a chef, I want to be like, it was just, I think, an evolution of my just life. Like I always liked food. I can remember like cooking grilled cheese sandwiches at like 5 years old, and now that I have a 5, 6, 8-year-old, like I was just like, Mom, why did you let me touch the stove? Right? But she's like, oh, you're okay. You're supervised, right? But yeah, it seems like every job I always had just went back to food, like working in high school and everything. Like I worked at our local bingo hall, I was in the concession stand, even our arena, but that was the concession stand, and a local diner. And so my first restaurant job was 12, and yeah, just in a local diner here on Six Nations. And it just seemed like everything just kind of kept coming back to food for me as I went on and went to school. I originally started going to school for like archaeology, and it just, something about it was just like, I was like, this isn't me, but I still love this. And so eventually I kind of asked my mom, like, you know, can I go to culinary school? And they're like, well, I guess you can check it out for a year and see what happens.
Yeah.
But
well, so you go from cooking other people's food, if you're working in other places, what was the evolution to you then cooking like what you want and making your own recipes and coming up with these dishes that are your signature dishes? When did that happen?
Well, that's just like, that's the work of a chef, right? Like that's the difference between a chef and a cook. Chefs are making recipes, whereas cooks are using recipes. So basically I don't use recipes, right? And the idea of even making them now and putting on my website different things, I'm just like, you know, it takes effort when it's just like, you're used to just like, I'm going to go in the kitchen and make something. So that's a little different, but it did come along in terms of working with Indigenous foods, didn't come along till probably about 20 years into my career. So wow. I've been working for 28 years in restaurants now. I just turned 40.
Wow.
So, yeah, so I started young, but it wasn't until I became a mom where I kind of ended up meshing those two thought processes of being raised traditionally and then working in professional kitchens for so many years. And then I started getting requests after I moved home. Like I always lived in and around home, but I wasn't working in the community. So when I started again, I started having a lot of requests for traditional foods. Oh, can you make us some scone? Can you make whatever, right? Corn soup, didn't matter. And so I had another local caterer that I was helping him start his business at the time. And he's like, you can do this too. Like, you're doing it for me. Why aren't you doing it for yourself? And I really accredited him. I would say him and my mom, because she was the one growing and seed keeping and just kind of throwing these things at me that even I didn't know what it was growing up. It was just kind of like, here, I can do this squash, here, go make it happen. So
that's incredible
that really
to have that support, though, you know, from somebody else who, you know, a lot of times in this colonized world we live in, it's very competitive, right? It's like, I'm doing this and I don't want anybody else doing it. So to have somebody who's doing something like that and encouraging you to go do it, put your own spin on it, your own take on it, that's a gift. That's a real gift to have.
It really is, and I do have a lot of respect for him in that sense that that he encouraged that, and we still work together. Like, we get a major event for 1,000 people, we're just, you know, kind of throw our staffs together and make it happen. So being able to do that and uplift other Indigenous businesses in my community, like, I think you couldn't ask for anything better, right? And to have that support, and I just think that that's incredible. And just to have that business mindset is really, it is an incredible thing, because there is a lot of competition. And
yeah,
my community's so big, there's no reason for us to have any competition here. There's enough jobs to keep everybody happy. I can assure you that.
What's your favorite dish to prepare?
Anything I've never made before.
Really?
It took me a long time to come up with that answer.
It's a first time thrill thing for you. Like, oh, I wonder what this would be like. That's
I'm not about beating that old horse of making the same thing over and over, and this is my signature, and I don't like any of that. I'm just like, when it comes to Indigenous food, and that's why I have a daily menu at my shop now, is because I don't know how much I'm going to have of anything. It's harvested, it's fresh, we don't know what we're working with, and that's what I love. I'm just like, okay, what's in there today? That's what we're going to make, right? And I think that's working with indigenous foods has really benefited my chef career because of that, right? Like this mentality, like I can walk in somewhere and have like $500 ingredients and think it's amazing, but I don't think that that's amazing. I'm just like, that person grew that piece of corn for me, right?
Aww.
That was forged by somebody's hands to put their time and their love and all of that into those foods, and to be able to make them something incredible that they can like take. And I feel like we're eating with our ancestors when we're doing those things, and we're recognizing them, and we cook our traditional foods for like our feasts. And I want to see our traditional foods of that, because I feel like our ancestors are the ones that haven't been able to eat these things in a really long time. And that's something for me in my career that I find really touching, right? And if I'm cooking, I'm making things that aren't necessarily for me. I'm making things for people that I know are there. I'm going to make my desserts that I know are my grandfather's favorites. And, like those are the types of things that I want to make, because I'm not cooking for me when we're doing those things, right? Like you're cooking for people that are there, that even whether you see them or not, I want them to be invited. Right.
And to have them with you when you're cooking it, right? Like that's with you while you're preparing it too, and then eating and sharing and having that. I think that's a lot of people operate like that, but I think that the world would be a better place if more of us did, right? I wanted to ask.
I've definitely had some pretty interesting experiences that way.
Really? Can you share any?
That nobody touched. Who touched that? Literally had things like in my hand. So you're not the only one there when you're cooking like that.
That is amazing. Okay, so I want to jump ahead to Top Chef Canada. This was your first cooking competition. What was it like? I mean, I would assume it was intense pressure, but walk us through like the lived experience of it.
Yeah, well, it's a cooking competition, right? Now, all competitions are designed to be stressful, but this is a reality show cooking competition. Right. So you're doing like two things at once that most people do normally, right? So definitely designed to keep you moving on your toes, a little stressed. Like you're never comfortable, right? Like if you're comfortable, it's because you're not doing something or you're waiting for something about to happen. So those are fun to see and experience that. It took me a minute to get my feet wet and understand, okay, what do they expect of me here? And I think you'll kind of see that in the series that and it's just like a good time, right? Like to see other chefs, like we don't get time to go out. Like half of us are working 60, 80 hours a week. So
right.
You don't get much time to work with other chefs in that sense, right? So just that was incredible, being able to work with people across the country. I have 10 new friends I can go visit.
Well, we're obviously going to be cheering for you. Last question for you. I wanted to know, there's probably a lot of young budding chefs out there, especially because of these shows like Top Chef, watching and having this in their future or hoping for it to be. What advice would you have for those young to inspire those young chefs, or for people sitting at home, like, as old people who are getting bored of cooking and maybe looking for some inspiration to mix things up in our own kitchens, not to do it in a big scale, but just for our own families?
Would be too, like, if you want to be a better cook, or if you are looking at being a chef, like if you're young, there's never too young an age to start cooking. That's always important. Setting those guidelines, being young, that you're going to grow up and eating healthfully and thinking about your health. That's something I'm really super impressed with right now with adolescents and teenagers, that they are really cautious about what they eat. I know that wasn't even on our radars when I was that age. So that's incredible. And I can't wait to see what these kids do, because they've had everything. They've had every flavor, every cuisine, and then they've had them all mixed together too. Yeah. So I think food, in terms of where it's going, what our food looks like today is not what my kids and grandkids are going to be eating. But that's incredible to me, because some of those things are going to be our traditional foods that we don't have everyday access to. And that's what I would encourage people, just to get outside, see what's in your backyard. You would be so surprised at how many wild edibles are around us all the time, and they're forgotten, right? Yeah. And as soon as you start recognizing those things, they know mushrooms become more plentiful. Berries start growing in these bunches when they were just sporadic. Like, I feel like those plants, I feel like they've been recognized. And when we do that, like that's helping us as well, right? And we're eating better, and we're taking more, antioxidants and vitamins and things that modern day foods can't even touch for us, right?
Yeah.
Like our indigenous foods are so nutrition dense that, you don't even need to eat a lot of it. Like that's the thing, right? You're totally changing everything. But just like engaging with your community, going to community events, and most importantly, asking why are foods here? Have people in every community. We have thousands of talented indigenous chefs across Turtle Island, and like let's use that, right? Let's make our foods better, right? And that's what I feel like would be the most thing, that if we really wanted to encourage people with what they're doing now and how they would do that, that would be my thing, is just to get out there, try it. If you want to do this as a career, definitely, like, you have to know your hustle, you have to know your worth, and you have to be able to prove it. So it's like, it's a go hard industry, and if you want to be successful at it, it's definitely possible, but you have to be willing to put in the work.
I love this. Tawnya, you're an inspiration. You make me want to go home and break out all my tasty goodies that have been harvested so far this summer and make something spectacular. Thank you for taking time to join us from your busy restaurant, and all the best of luck to you. We'll be cheering for you this season.